person. Normally, you would deal with the father. In some cases, you deal with the father and the mother. Very rarely you will deal with the children. In fact, it is very rare because most parents seem to think we're the ones making the financial decisions. But one of the things that I've realized is when it involves families, everybody is involved. If the children don't buy in, if the health doesn't buy in, the family finances will still have issues. So it's really about persuasion, helping people understand practical examples. So it has to be a very practical situation. What is it that you're dealing with as a family today? What are the things going on in your house? How do we then make this better? So let me give you an example. I'll use myself as an example. Last year, I found that we were spending so much on electricity bills. So I did something. I started buying electricity, maybe 20 kits. And you find that in a week and a half, it's finished. Nobody really fussed about it. My nanny didn't really seem to care. So one night around generating the days went off and we didn't have light in the house. We tried all the many apps, nothing was going through. It took us about an hour to be able to buy power. And then she took the security post to load it. After that day, that 20K started lasting for 2 weeks. It was the practical situation of seeing just the impact of wasting lights that got her to understand why she needed to turn off the AC, turn off the heater when she wasn't utilizing it. So with families, it involves a lot of practical example, helping people actually pinpoint what is it that you're dealing with in your house today and how do we fix it.
How does, is there still a need for budgeting? Because a lot of people will say, how can I budget what is very low that cannot even take me home? When three quarters, even statistically, data backed in Nigeria, that as Nigerians will spend about three quarters of our income, or even more than that now, on our food, where you have a carton of noodles. In fact, that one made me, you know what I'm talking
That's the
about.
biggest shocker.
Yes, yes, the
Yeah.
biggest shock. I don't want to call the name, but a popular brand. I used to buy, even for my son, and because when I go to how I've been able to also navigate this is I buy in bulk. So before I now try to buy again. So the biggest shocker was it's like double, almost three times. I was like, whether I will have to tell my son this noodles first. But it's also no fault of theirs, as it were. Or perhaps I will also look for another alternative, a healthy alternative too. But children, you would also, just like you mentioned, they also have a hand, in all of this. So how
Mm-hmm.
how do you budget when the money that you're earning cannot even take you home, as it were? Is budgeting a practicability in this instance that we find ourselves? Or you just live each day as it comes?
There's this saying, if you fail to plan, sorry, you're planning to fail. When you don't have a budget, you don't even have a starting point. The truth is, budgets have to be a bit more flexible this period. That's the fact. You have how much you're earning, you have how much you intend to spend over the next month. And maybe it works this month, but next month you have to adjust again because my gosh, prices have doubled, prices have tripled in some cases. But if you didn't have a budget in the first place, you don't even know what's changing. You don't know what you're adjusting. So if you have a budget, it's your baseline. If you have to adjust it next month, you can clearly see your expenses. I have this thing where I like my clients to separate their budget into essentials, discretionary, then you have savings, investments, and some other things. Anything that is essential, even among the essentials, you still have those that you have levels of control for. So, food, for example, you actually do have some control over it. For example, if you're a family that's when daddy is eating, he's eating 5 pieces of meat. You know that when push comes to shove, maybe you can reduce the meat you buy. So there's some
It's
control
also
there.
getting daddy to
So you,
understand that it should not be 5 pieces of meat. If he wants to eat 5 pieces of meat, let him provide for 5 pieces of meat, as it were. So it's for
yeah.
daddy to understand that whether it will be 3 pieces now and not 5 pieces. So daddy does not even see it as a sign of disrespect that you are giving him 3 pieces instead of 5 pieces. There a cultural angle
That's
comes into
that's
it.
one key point. Yeah,
Yes.
that's one key point. Everybody actually has to work together.
Mm.
Imagine the mother doing the budget for the month. You already had a budget last month, and you've seen that look, it cost us 40,000 naira to go grocery shopping for 1 week. And then this month you've done the list, and you call your friend in the market, and she tells you Indomie is now 12,000 instead of 4,000. What's going on? You call the children. You can see what we did last month. You can see where we are today. Look at the difference. they need to start understanding money. I watched a video on Instagram the other day where the comments people were like, why are you teaching these children this so early? Why they will never learn it? Now you have daddy also being part of the budget. Daddy sees the budget. Look, this is what it was, and this is what it is now. I totally don't appreciate situations where the wife comes, oh, we need 50,000 for food this month. Next month we need 70,000. The man is frustrated. Like, sister, what's going on now? Every month you're just increasing. Do you know how much I'm earning? But when he's involved in the process, the same way the children are involved in the process, this is how much we spend on this, this, and this. Now, this is what it is in the market today. What can we cut out? So in that food budget, you know what is essential to you. For example, you need rice. But what kind of rice do you need? Must it be basmati rice? Must it be imported long grain? Or can we go and buy this local brand? Not the one that has too much chaff. Let's still be nice. The local brand that is, well refined and all that. These are where you start having the conversation. So by bringing out all the things that you buy as a family, you know which one you need or you don't need and which one you can cut out. Let me give you an example. I have a 2-year-old, and sometime last year early last year he was ready to be weaned off totally, and he was starting to eat solid food. Now I'll try not to mention brands, but there's this children's cereal that I wanted to get for, and I realized this cereal with 3 days, this young man has finished eating it. I decided, you know what? There is pap. Pap is healthy. I don't like pap, and maybe that's why I didn't think about it immediately. But pap is very healthy. It's great for gut health. And guess what? It's cheaper. So we adjusted it. Yes, he still takes this pill, but we have more pap in the mix. My cost reduced. So just thinking about each line item, which one is really essential? Which one can we play around with the brand? Which one can around with the type? Which one can we even decide, you know what, maybe we just cut it out totally. So those are important things to look into.
Are there other practical tips? Because we've talked about at least food, as we know that food takes over 3/4 of our income. Are there other practical tips? You also talked about electricity earlier. Are there other practical tips that households can really use to navigate these times?
Let me give you an example. I like to use examples because it's easier to relate when you think about the situation. You have a man and a woman who work within the same axis, right? And they leave home together sometimes, most times, but they both drive their individual cars. Because really, why do I need to carpool when I have a car? My husband has a car. We go to work in our cars. And then we're looking at their budgets. Guys, it's not a case where you are living in Ikoyi, one person is working in Ekpe and the other person is working in Ikeja. No, you work around each other. Your offices are not they're not so far away from each other. Maybe 5 minutes detour and you've taken the other person to the office. How about you try carpooling more times during the week? Now, what has happened is, one, they have reduced the cost of fuel that they spend every month. Yes, there are some days that maybe someone has extra errands to run during the afternoon, so they each go with their own cars because you don't want to keep the other person stranded. But they found ways to reduce their costs on petrol. Now you have where in fact, we did the review of the numbers, and you find that they were both spending, between themselves, they were spending about 80-something thousand. Now it's dropped to about 60-something thousand on fuel in a month. How? It is the simple things, carpooling. You have colleagues that live around you. You guys can speak to each other. Maybe you drive today, me I drive tomorrow. Let's just align our schedules to leave the house and get to the office. That's one way to do it. We've talked about electricity. We've talked about food. What about entertainment? Oh, watch football. But there's this particular channel. If I don't buy the premium package, I can't get it. Do you really need the premium package right now? Maybe you can get Netflix or Showmax. You can get all those shows that you want, especially if you're someone who tends to work from home a lot and you already have to buy internet. If you're already buying the largest package of the internet because you need it for work, then why not utilize it fully and also probably stream your shows as much as possible and reduce the cost you're spending on cable? This is something else you can consider. There are different aspects of your family life. Think about everything. One other thing that I have done, and I truly encourage as many people to do as possible, is start a little home garden. You don't even have to have a lot of land space. You can get pots and plant vegetables. You would find how gradually, one, you reduce your cost, and two, you can even start sharing it to your neighbors. I didn't say sell because you can sell, that's nice. I recently started begging my neighbors to come and collect green and spinach from my garden because the thing is growing and just spreading everywhere, and we're not finishing it. Heck, that's another way you can start making money, selling it if you can. So there are very practical things that you can sit down. But again, for everybody, it is unique to their individual situation. So you want to do a thorough deep dive of your situation. What are the things? What is my life like? Audit your life. And when you're done auditing it, start thinking of all the things you can adjust. But there's one thing I always say, you can't outsave or outplan a bad income. If there's room to increase your income, it is important to look into that. If you're a family of two parents and only one parent is working and the other parent can start doing something small from home, then please start, because it is important that you increase how much you earn, because we don't know how bad it can get before it gets better.
Now, I want to bring in this dimension, and the dimension is, if you take a look at increasing income, of course, I like that you brought that in because I was about to ask that, but you sorted that out. Especially for people, husband and wife, for instance, the husband is working, the wife is not working. You try to get something as a wife to start, or even individuals now coming to personal finance, that where they are working, the salaries are not enough. And the employers are also in a fix because the employers cannot also increase salary. Or even for some employers, they've increased by a margin. But we've seen in the last few months that inflation is also worsening. So will you still be going back to the employer to please increase my salary? If you are being paid, let's say 20,000, I'm using it for an example, and your employer increases it to 30,000, and in the next 2-3 months, transport costs have gone up, inflation has risen, employer again should increase, employer again should increase. So how how much of a dilemma are we really in? Do you understand what I mean in
It's a
terms?
very vicious circle.
Yes, it is, because
You,
employers are not also
you,
having it easy. Employees are not having it easy. Companies are closing down. How many times will you go to your employer to increase salary?
so the truth is this, you can't, as long as you're in paid employment, there's only so much increase you can get. There's only so much control you have over your earning power in paid employment. Yes, there are things you can do. You can upskill, improve yourself, and be so valuable to the company that they promote you to the highest rank. There are companies where the highest rank is earning 50, 70,000 a month anyway. So there's only so much that you may be able to achieve in that job. And let's be honest, new jobs are not flying out of this and begging us to come for them. So there aren't necessarily a lot of jobs out there either. The truth is, you have to make your own employer. Now, disclaimer here, not everybody has the time or the access to really start a business of their own. I mean, if you live in Lagos and you're waking up at 4 o'clock to go to the office and then you're coming back home by 10 p.m., when do you have the time for a side hustle? It is tough for some people. But like I keep saying, it is very personal. If in your situation you can afford to find time to start doing something extra, skills, selling your knowledge, great. But in a situation where you don't even necessarily have the education or you don't have the to start something in the corporate world or even teaching skills, there are smaller things you can do. Let me give an example. A client of mine was telling me someone, she had dealing with. And this young girl had to leave school SS2. So she didn't complete her education. She was selling akara with mother. How do we get you into a nice, profitable business from this
Okay.
akara that you're selling?
Okay, Temi, I
How
think I will.
about grind?
Temi, let me halt you a bit. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Can you hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you. Good morning.
My name is Abdulaziz Sani.
Okay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Karu, Abuja.
Okay, so do you have a question?
Well, you're touching what is affecting us in this area. That is the issue of water.
Okay, water, and
We,
is World
and the
Water
last,
Day.
since October, there's no water in Karunyanya Algis. Pipeborne water is not available.
Okay, I think it's been
And
noted.
nobody is
Thank you
even
very
talking
much.
about it. We don't know what is happening.
Thank you very much for that call. Today is World Water Day, so it's such an apt one. Thank you very much, and I hope that the authorities are listening. That should be FCT, isn't it? Minister Wike should look at that. Of course, I guess Gary is still within the FCT access. So thank you very much for calling World Water Day today. All right, in case you want to ask your questions concerning what we're discussing, managing household finance, my guest is still on, Temi Egenti, a personal finance coach. All right, Temi, please go ahead. Land on what you
Okay,
were saying
so
earlier.
this,
Yes.
yeah, so this child says, look, she knows she's okay. How do you make akara from this? Oh, this is the process. We grind the beans, we do this, we do that. And then she's like, you know what? People don't have the time necessarily go through this long process before they make akara. It's a lot of work. How about you make this beans into flour and sell? Now it seems like, okay, that's not a big deal. But this young lady is now making a lot of money from that. The point is that there are so many opportunities around us. And in this day and age where it is more and more expensive to import things, exchange rate is affecting us. All the other economic issues are all coming together to increase the cost of imported goods. What are the things we willing to buy? The point is this: everyone has a skill. What's that skill that you have that you can monetize? No matter how little, no matter how much time can you put towards it? Find the thing that you can do within the available time you have and try to monetize it. Because there's only so much you can chase your employers for an increment. There
Okay.
are not that many jobs right now for you to chase. So
Okay, we have another caller. Hel- Good morning. Okay, I think that call has dropped. I actually heard myself at the other end. All right, Temi, do go ahead, but please, if you want to call us, please make that quick. Don't call so that you hear our voice and you drop. So you can call that number on the screen, 08053789021. How are you navigating this high general price level? All right, Temi.
So that's the basic of it. Find something that you can do. What is that skill you have? What is that thing that people keep telling you? Oh my gosh, you're so amazing at this. Find how you can monetize it. And you don't need to start big. You can really start month on my Instagram lives every Saturday. And this is what we've been talking about. What is that thing you have that you can start? And a lot of these women are housewives, but they found a way to create, in fact, they're making a lot of money from home. So they're no longer what you call your everyday housewives, but the women
Exactly.
are
Yes.
thriving at home.
Yes. Working housewives that are working in the house.
Yeah.
Do we have another
I have
caller?
one that is actually making more money from what she's doing at home than she made in paid employment.
Yeah. Do we have another caller? Director, do we have another caller? Okay, okay. All right. Good morning. Where are you calling from? Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling
Good
from?
morning. This is Ayola from Lagos.
Oh,
Ayobo.
yes. Go ahead.
Ayola from Lagos.
Thank you for calling.
Ayobo.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Part of the budget these days that one can look into is like changing education. You move from a very high rented apartment to where you can easily pay. There's a saying that if your 2 months salary cannot pay your rent, that rent is bigger than you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing us that tip. Temi, I hope you got that. If you're
Yeah.
staying in a highbrow area, you cannot afford it, please move to where your salary can afford. And he made a very valid point. If your 2 months salary cannot afford
Pay
your
your rent.
rent, you are living above your means, my friend, to impress people you don't like, just to be part of the Joneses, you know.
There's a saying I love: cut your coat according to your cloth.
Exactly.
We when we were growing up, it was cut your cloth according to
Because
your
your
size.
size.
Your size may be too big for the material you have. Cut it according to the material you have. If your material can only sew you a crop top, wear the crop top in pride. If that is what you can afford, that is what you can afford.
Okay, are there other tips? I like this last caller's tip actually, and that's about housing, because that's another thing that gives Nigerians high blood pressure as it is. You're talking of food, house rent, then perhaps as a family school fees, especially if you have like 4 children in school. And many Nigerians have their children even in private school, so we'll pay out of pocket and all of that. So every term, I guess by today, many schools are going on holiday or perhaps early next week.
Yes.
Yes. So in the next 2, 3 weeks or so, you are paying school fees again. That's another nightmare for many families. How do we navigate this as we round up? I guess. How many minutes do we have left? Yes, go ahead, Timmy.
School fees and house rents are the second and third most expensive things that we spend money on as families. Usually food is the top because everybody would eat. Now, when it comes to going to choosing the school your children go to, it is usually ideal for children to go to schools close to the house. So when you're living in an area that is really expensive, you know that the school fees is going to be expensive. And Ayola was correct. Your rent should be reasonable to what to what you earn. Maybe working in Lekki, you're a teacher in a school in Lekki, you decide you want to live in Lekki. But can you really afford to live in Lekki on your teaching salary? You may need to move the other way towards closer to Ekpe to be able to meet up. And if you're living within the area that you can afford, chances are there will be a school there. Now, I have to be honest with you, I'm a parent and we want the best for our children, which means that we want the best schools that we can afford, right? We want the best schools for our children. But there's something you need to do when you're planning education for your children. Think long term. How much is it going to cost me to send my child to school for the next primary school, secondary school, and maybe university? How much do I need to keep aside every month to meet this education need? Now, can I afford to set that money aside for my salary every month? You're not just looking at the next term school fees, you're looking at the school fees for the next 1 year, the next 2 years. Because God forbid something happens and you don't earn money for a while, how much do you have set aside for that school fees? Will you be changing your child's school every 2 weeks, every 2 terms? Another tip that is actually quite important when it comes to things like school fees and even house rent. These are things that we pay annually or 3 times a year. You don't wait till the term of school fees before you start setting money aside for it. You need to have something called a sinking fund. If school fees for 1 year is 100,000, well, let's say 300,000, how much do you need to save every month to be able to pay the school fees for every term of that year?
Okay.
So if your school fees, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
Temi, I know we can go on and on when it comes to family finance or even personal finance because there are different layers
Yes.
of it. But I'm afraid we've come to the end of it today. We will do some other time. Thank you for your insights. But I know that our viewers have really taken a lot of tips from this interview. So thank you and have a happy weekend too.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with Temi Egenti, who is a personal finance coach. We've been looking at managing personal finance. Is it personal? Okay, we talked a bit about personal. Managing family finance during inflation. All right, that's it for today and this week. Thank you for your company. I'll see you all again next week, God willing. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye now.